Hi, I'm Dotty Delightful. That's my business name. My personal name is Ruby, and I've come to talk to you today about how I completely changed my life from being a young teenage mum who was completely broke to doing the thing that I love the most, which is painting pictures and being a full-time artist and inspiring others to live their best life and to just be authentically them. So it's a bit of a long story, so I'm going to try and shut it down to a smaller one, or we'll be here all day. But hello everyone that's watching. I'm not going to answer any comments while I'm talking, otherwise I have a tendency to lose what I'm on about, and then we'll end up talking about sandwiches or something. So here we go. So as I was saying, I'm Ruby from dottydelightful.com, and I'm an artist and an empowerer, and I love to help people grow their small businesses and to really do the thing that they want to do. So early on, I was at art college when I was 16. I loved it. I thought it was so amazing. But then I met this boy that had a leather jacket and long hair and a car, and I thought he was even more impressive than my art college. So I ended up, I don't know how, getting pregnant, and I was so poorly through the pregnancy that I had to drop out of art college, which was just devastating for me, because since at the age of 12 I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I had all my life mapped out that I was going to go to college and then move to London. So I'm so glad that it didn't work out like that, because I can't ever imagine me being in the fashion world in London. Anyway, I dropped out, and then by the age of 22 I had 3 children. It wasn't a very happy time. I had postnatal depression. Didn't even know what that was. I lived with the dad of the children, and he was very violent. He was very mentally abusive, and it took its real toll on me. Told me every day that I wasn't good enough and that I was fat and ugly and nobody else would want me, and I believed him. And I think that it happens to a lot of women, that they get ground down until they actually start believing that they're not good enough for anything. And that's what happened to me. I was raped during that time. I tried to kill myself, and you've got to imagine at that point I was only 22. I had 3 little ones. He worked away a lot. He cheated on me with all my friends, so all my friends abandoned me, so I was on my own, so I was a completely different person. And for years I hated that girl. I absolutely hated her, and I thought she was weak and rubbish. But actually now I've just got compassion for her, that she did her best with the knowledge that she had at that time. And I think that's what we have to do all the time. We can't look back on our past and think that we were awful, because at that time we didn't know any better. So that's what happened. And then I'd had enough, and he'd hit me and throw me down the stairs and all sorts, and I could cope with that. But one day he came home from work and he kicked my little boy, and something in my head just clicked, and it was that mothering instinct or whatever it was, and I was just like, this is it. So I phoned the police, and the police took him away, and then I was on my own. Woohoo, I was free. But it didn't quite go to plan. So I think because of all the way of me being a teenager, I'd been in this relationship and like a real grown-up looking after a house. I'd not had that wild, crazy time. So when he left, I did go a bit crazy. I took loads of drugs. I drank all the time. I partied all the time, and I hung around with loads of people that lived with parents, and I didn't. I had my own house, so everybody came to our house, and our house was the party house. And that's happened for a few years. It was like that for a couple of years, and then unbeknownst to me, which is ridiculous to think about it now, but one of the guys that used to come to our house was a drug dealer. I should have known, because he always had the drugs, but I didn't. And then there was a knock on the door, and it was the police, and they raided my house, and I've never been so shocked, I think was the word. I wasn't scared, I was just shocked, because I didn't really realise what was going on. And they raided my house, and they were looking for drugs. Now at the time I had a block of weed, and it was about this big, and it had fallen into the toaster, so they never found it, thank God. And this police lady came over to me, and she said, if we come back to your house, we're taking your children off you. And again, it was that moment where something in my head, it was like a light bulb or something switched on, and I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm a mother, I've got children, like, what am I doing? So from that minute, as soon as she said it, my life completely changed again, and I was like, I cannot do this. So I got rid of all my friends, which was again really hard because I ended up back on my own with no kind of support system. And then I decided to go to college, and I thought, well, my kids are a little bit older, they can go into nursery. So I went to college and I did criminology and forensic science and psychology, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And then I got a place at university, but because it was at Preston, I couldn't get the kids to nursery and everything in time. So I didn't go to that. And I stayed at home, and I was just a mum for a while. Not just a mum, because being a mum's brilliant, but you know what I mean. I was just at home. And then I went back to college and I studied fashion and textiles. And it felt like I'd gone back to being 16, where there was this little glimmer of hope of me finally being the fashion designer that I wanted to be. It was great. So I lived in Staining at the time, which is like out in the countryside a bit. So I had to get 2 buses, drop one of the kids off at school, get on another bus, take the kids to nursery and get to college. And I did it. And I was walking to college one day, and there was this boarded up shop, and it was an old TV shop, like a 70s one. Now, I'm mad on vintage and retro things. I love it. And my house was full of it, like, I'm a bit of a hoarder. It was full of junk. And I thought, I'm going to get this shop. So I worked out that at the time I got child benefit and tax credits. And I thought, if I don't make enough money in the shop to pay the shop rent, I can just use what I get for my tax credits and pay for the shop rent. Never had a shop before, never had a business before, didn't have a clue about insurance or anything. Met with the landlord, said, yes, I'm going to get this shop. And then I just emptied my house into the shop and made clothes, and I just sold clothes, and it was just incredible. And it was that first little taste of freedom and possibility, that there was more to life than what I was doing. So it was just fantastic. So I did that, and then after that the landlord had to close because he was poorly, he had to shut down, and that was fine. And I got another couple of shops, and they didn't work out as well because they were in rubbish locations and stuff. And then I met my partner Tom, and for some reason, and we've tried to work this out over and over again, for some reason he heard about a documentary called The Secret. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's about the law of attraction, and I remember sitting and watching it together, this documentary, and again that thing went off in my head, that light bulb moment of, whoa, there's actually more. There's more than what we know. There's more than just making tea and watching the news and curry and stuff like that. There's more to life. Like, there's loads of stuff, and you are allowed to dream big, and you are allowed to get what you really, really desire and what you need. Like, the universe knows what you actually need. So we watched that, and again it made me think of like all these different things, and I thought back to that I'd actually painted this picture one day of this man, and he was playing guitar, and he was saying how beautiful the sky was and all this stuff, and I painted him. I was like to my friend, oh, this is my dream man, he's gonna come to me. She thought I was bonkers. Anyway, I forgot about that. Then I'd met Tom and remembered Tom plays guitar and he looks at the sky and all this stuff. So it was like, oh, I think this is law of attraction. I think this is what it is. So I started learning about it and researching, and I bought all her books. There's another one called Power as well. But actually, they're great. They are really good. But actually, watching the documentary and then putting things into practice, you don't actually really need to get the books, but get them if you want them. And then after that, the possibility was just open, and it was endless. And I went to a workshop. Sorry, my throat's going croaky. I went to a workshop, and the business lady, she's called Kirsty, she's a singer, and she said, if you could do anything, what would you do? And at the time, because we didn't have much money, I'd been sewing toys for the children for Christmas, making them presents. So they were like little bears and monsters and things like that I'd hand sewn every night when they'd gone to bed. And a couple of my friends had said, oh, I love them, can I buy some for my kids? And then I made these Russian doll cushions, and some friends had said, oh, can I buy them for gifts and stuff? So I made them. And then I'd gone to, there was a craft fair in a church, and it had snowed, and it was like it hardly ever snows here, but this year it snowed and it was really deep. And I've got vintage suitcases. One was my dad's, and I collected them, told you was a hoarder. I packed all this handmade stuff into these suitcases, and me and Tom carried them in the snow because there was no transport to the church, to this craft fair. Never done anything like it before, but I had a shop, so I kind of knew a bit. Anyway, sat there at the fair, and it was the most embarrassing thing happened, because the people were coming in and buying off me, but not buying off any other stalls, and I felt terrible. So there was this real guilt, and it was almost like I thought, oh, it's like I'm pretending to be this person, and I'm not really a seller, and I can't really make things. And I think no matter how far you get in your life and whatever you do, there's always this really ridiculous inner critic that talks to you all the time, saying, you know, you can't do that, and you're not meant to do that. And the thing is, you've just got to try and shut it down and try and get rid of it. So I did this fair, and I made £100. £100! I was like, that was crazy. At that time, it was like gold. We'd won the lottery just before Christmas and everything. It was fantastic. So back to this course I was on with Kirsty, the singer, and she said, what would you do? And because I'd done craft fairs, I realised that there was loads of things missing, and I said I'd put on my own craft fairs. And she said, why don't you do it then? And it was the most simple question, and it was the most thought-provoking question, and I was like, I don't actually know. And she was like, that's what you need to do, you need to make a plan and you need to do it. So because I'd done fairs and I'd seen what was lacking from the fairs that I'd done, and I was a seller, I wasn't just an organiser, I understood what people that came to fairs wanted. So I understood the audience, which is really important, and I understood what the people that were sat behind the tables needed. And I hired the church hall, and I remember it was £40 for the church hall, and I hired it for the whole day, and we stayed up the night before baking cakes, and we had a little tiny vintage tea room and 12 stalls. And I did that, I think 3 times I did that over a year, and everybody loved it. Everybody said it was brilliant, and they kept asking, oh, my friend wants to come and have a stall, my friend wants to come and have a stall, have you got more room? And I didn't, because it was tiny. And bearing in mind that the secret and all the learning's going on in the background, and I'm taking it all in about the law of attraction, and how whatever energy we put out is the energy that we get back, and how what we fill our minds with is what will manifest in real life. So our inner, whatever is happening on our inner, manifests in our outside life. So if you just read newspapers and watch the news and are constantly in fear, you will manifest that fear outside of you. And that sounds bonkers if you've never heard it before, but it is completely true. So if you fill your mind with good things and you use affirmations and put it out there what you want, you get that back. So this is all going on in the background. So this lady at the fair said, what are you going to do, because more stall holders want stalls? And I said, I'm going to hire the Winter Gardens. Now, if you don't know, the Winter Gardens is this huge building, it right in the middle of Blackpool Town Centre, and it puts on big shows and exhibitions and music acts and all sorts of things, theatre performances and everything. And I giggled and I was frightened, and I know that that's a winning combination, because if I'm frightened but I'm excited, that is the thing that I need to do. And I did it, and I won't bore you with all the details, but in the end I had 140 stalls, live entertainment on the stage all weekend, and a vintage tea room, and it was amazing. It was so good, and I did it for 4 years, and it was bloody hard work. Like, it was just me, and Tom helped with physical stuff, and that it was just, I don't think I've ever been as exhausted in my whole life. And it was hard work, but it was good, and it kept us going for a few years. And then the very last fair that I did in December, I was exhausted. So what you've got to realise is on Friday you go and set up. On Saturday it's on all day. On Sunday it's on all day. And Sunday night you have to pack everything down. That includes all the tables, shopping for the tea room, everything. So on Mondays I used to be so exhausted that I could hardly speak. Really bad for your body, like so bad for your body. And I was on the couch this particular Monday and I got a phone call off the hospital, and my mum had been taken into hospital, and she used to go into hospital quite a lot, and I didn't really think much of it, and I said, look, I'll come and visit her at visiting time. Is that okay? And they said, yeah. Then about an hour later I got a phone call off her boyfriend, and he said, you need to come to the hospital, your mum's really bad. And I said, how bad? Can it wait till this afternoon? Bearing in mind I was so shattered. And he was like, yeah, it can wait. And then early the afternoon came and I got this phone call, and the doctor said, we've had to resuscitate your mum 7 times. She's died. Do you want us to keep resuscitating her? So I went to the hospital and I said no, obviously. Everything had shut down, and all the body had shut down and everything. And that really made me reflect on what was important in my life. And if I was so exhausted that I couldn't go to the hospital and see my mum before she died, it wasn't the right thing for me to carry on doing. And I think that's a really important thing. We can try things, but we do have to reflect on, is this good for me? Is this what I should be doing? And either if it is, carry on. If it's not, change it up, because we are allowed to change. We have permission to change. If you're stuck in a job now, and I know it's all weird with all this virus and stuff that's going on, so everything's a little bit up in the air. But if you've been going to a job normally and now you're working from home and you're like, actually I like it at home and I don't like being in this job, it's time for you to start thinking about the opportunities and the ideas out there, because you are allowed to change. So I did that, and then I stopped the fairs. I sold it to another lady, and unfortunately the lady didn't carry it on, but it was time to let it go. And then I had another shop selling vintage and handmade things, and at the same time I saw a tweet on Twitter about this organisation called Camarados, which is a social change movement, and they were having some talk, and it said something about the council, and at that particular time I really wanted to work with the council to help women that had been through domestic violence, and to help them change their lives. So I went to listen to this guy, and he was called Math Potts, and he's such character. It just oozes out of him, and you just want to help and you just want to be part of it. So I ended up volunteering at the library. They do these things called pop-up living rooms, public living rooms, and basically it's some fairy lights and a couch and a cup of tea, and you just go and sit and be with other people, so people are not so isolated and lonely. And I really wanted to help, because I remember when I was a mum that I was super lonely, like when I was a young mum. And so I did this volunteering, did art lessons, and it got quite uncomfortable, because the kind of people that were going were addicts, and it wasn't really for me. So again, I reevaluated, is this working for me? No, it isn't. I had a chat with Math, he fully understood, and then we kept in touch over the years. Just want to pause and say, Mimi, could you let me know what the time is and stuff if I'm going to near the end, because I can't see the time on my screen. I've just realised. So over the years I kept in touch with Math, and then one day he rang me and he said, can you meet me, because I've got some really good ideas. So I went to meet him, and I'm full of ideas, like I can just pop them out all the time. So if you're stuck for any ideas, get in touch and I'll help you. And I had this chat with him, and I came out with all these ideas, and then a couple of weeks later he phoned and he said, do you want to go to New York? He said, it's okay if you want to say no. And I was like, what? Now, what I've not told you is I'd never had a passport all my life, because when we was growing up, we was very poor. We lived on a council estate, and we had no carpets and no TV and all that jazz. I'm a single parent, and my mum used to say, we don't go on holiday. No, we don't do that. Your auntie does that, not us, we don't do that. So I never believed that I was allowed to travel or get a passport, but I did. So I got this passport, and then it was 2 months after I'd got the passport, the first one in my whole life, that Math rang up and said, do you want to go to New York? I was like, yes I do. So the idea was that we worked for a week in New York, me and this camarado called Emma, who I didn't meet until we got to the airport. And we spent a week together doing pop-up living rooms all over New York. It was incredible. And I worked with an artist there called Garrett in this big art studio. And I'd kind of, at this time, gone away from making crafts and doing painting and drawing, which is what I've always done in the background and stuff, but not professionally. So I was doing all this, and then I met this artist in New York. And what happened, it wasn't just flying to New York, and it wasn't that I was doing all that stuff. It was something in my head that built me up. So it was like, so I was stood on Brooklyn Bridge. I'll just tell you what happened and then you might understand. I was stood on Brooklyn Bridge at night. We'd done this pop-up living room, and I went for a little walk on my own, and you could see all the skylight in front of me, all lit up and everything. It's beautiful. And I looked up at the sky, and it was all twinkly and stuff. And I started to cry, and I said, Mum, I do it. I can do it. And it was this breakthrough, like such a breakthrough, that I was allowed to travel. I was allowed to do anything. I was allowed to do anything I wanted. And it was a real shift. That was a catalyst for me to really change, again, my life. So it's all about changing, adapting and growing. And then I decided that was it. I was going to be a painter full time. I was going to do art full time. And I just knew that with the support of the universe and all these contacts that I'd built up and all this brand that I'd built up over the years, that's what I could do. And I was a bit frightened, to be honest. I really was, because I thought, well, what if I don't make any money? How am I going to pay things and stuff like that? But at this point, I was on, I got housing benefit, which is a benefit in England which helps you pay your rent. And we was also on working tax credits. So I knew that we wouldn't starve and we wouldn't be made homeless. And that's why I always ask myself, when I'm about to do something, I ask myself 2 questions. Am I going to die, or is anybody else going to die? And if the answer is no, will I lose my house? And if I'm not going to do any of them, I just go for it. Now, that might seem like a bit reckless and stuff, but I fully trust that everything in life is supported by things that we don't even know about. And if it's the right thing, it works. If it's not the right thing, it doesn't. And we adjust and we change. So that's what I did. And so I started my art business, still under my Dotty Delightful. I've been my Dotty Delightful brand now for, I think, like 13 or 14 years or something. And this was the first painting that I ever did. Now, when I look at it now, it's absolutely crap. It's like really, really rubbish. But I also love it at the same time, because it's the first thing that I ever made. And these are the kind of things that I make now. So you can see there's a little improvement. So that's what I do. But at the same time, I've learnt about The Secret. I've learnt about affirmations. Affirmations change your world. But I think the thing that most changes your world is gratitude. I think gratitude is the biggest thing. The more thankful you are for everything that you've already got and all the experiences you already have, that just makes it massive. Gratitude to me is the one life-changing thing. So you can't have this dream of having this grand house and not be grateful for the house that you're already in. It might not be the house that you desire, but you have to be grateful for it. And even on the darkest days, when you've got nothing, or you think you've got nothing to be grateful for, you are breathing, your body is working, you can hear things, you can see things. Just be grateful for love. Be grateful that you've got love to give, and that people that love you back. And there is always people that love you, even on the darkest, desperate days when I wanted to die because I thought that was the best way to stop everything. People that want to kill themselves, it's not because they want to hurt other people. They just want it to stop because you're so tired. You're just so tired of it over and over again. You don't know how to make it stop. And even on those darkest days, people love you so much. And even if they don't say it to you, they do. I really want you to remember that. So all the way through, we've been upgrading in increments. And that's the thing. I make vision boards of what I want. And you don't suddenly jump from being in a council house with no money and benefits to being fully, you know, out there in your own, whatever your dream house is and stuff. So we've done this in increments. So my business built up and I started getting a part-time wage from it. And then I started getting a full-time wage from it. And at that point when I signed off housing benefit, it was like that upgraded, lifted me again, because as much as I'm grateful for there's a benefit system, I think it's wonderful as a benefit system to support people. It also makes you feel really bad and a bit shit about yourself, to be honest, because you're not the one that's providing for yourself and your family. So for me and for Tom, that was a big part of our lives. We kept saying, imagine the day when we don't have to go in the benefit office and we don't have to justify what we're doing to people. Imagine that day. And that day came. And then I went on to this business course with my lovely business spiritual mentor, Joanna Hunter, who is incredible. And I knew I had to go on this course. And I was on this call with her and I didn't know how much the course was. And I was only just making when I say a full-time wage, I was making, I think, $1,000 a month from my art and my empowerment and doing work for camarados and things. So I was on this phone call to her and she was saying about this course and how there was a missing block of what I was doing. I'm really good at stuff, but there's this missing bit, so it's not continuous. I said, sign me up, whatever it costs, sign me up. And she said, it's £2,222. And for a second I went, oh, that old me was like, panic. And the new me was like, that's okay, that's fully okay. And I did it. And you know what? In the first month that I was on her course, I paid in increments, by the way, not in one big lump sum. The first month I was on her course, I smashed my monthly target. It was the first month I smashed it. And it's just brilliant. So I think I've talked quite a lot and I just want to give you some tips and things now. Thank you for bearing with me from a long story. So my things are, there's some books that have been really, really important in my life and I want to share them with you. So first of all, Get Rich, Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas. If you've got any money blocks, we all have money blocks, by the way. If you have any money blocks at all, this is what you need. She also has a brilliant website where she does loads of free training, all sorts of free things. So get onto her website. She does videos all the time and stuff. I met her last year. She was on my vision board and I went to a Chillpreneur event in London and it was just brilliant. And I was a complete geek when I met her and I was like, you're real, like, what a daft thing to say. And I thanked her for helping me so much. So I really recommend Get Rich, Lucky Bitch. That's that one. My other book that I highly recommend is this one, and you can see I've read it that much that the back's actually coming off it. This is called The Magical Path by Mark Allen. Mark Allen got me onto affirmations, and affirmations are statements that you say, and you say them every day or as much or as little as you want, but the more you do it, the more it increases, and you change your life with affirmations. So instead of thinking, I don't know, like I'm fat and ugly or something, you change that. That's your inner critic all the time in your head. You change that into I am slender and I am beautiful. Or if you don't believe that, you could change it to I am becoming slender and I am becoming beautiful. because you believe that a little bit more. So affirmations are amazing. And Mark Allen built his own business through ease. That's his thing. You can be lazy and build your own business through ease. That's a really good book. Recommend that one massively. And then my next book is Witch by Lisa Lister. Don't get put off by the title. This felt like coming home. It felt like there was something missing that I didn't know was missing as a woman, and this felt like coming home. It was just such a brilliant book. It's called Unleashed, Untamed and Unapologetic, and basically it's about finding the power as a woman that is inside you. And you honestly get this book. It makes you like a flipping powerful goddess. It is incredible. It's such a good book. And her other book, which I love, is Love Your Lady Landscape, and it's all about your moon cycles, which are like your periods. It's about that each time we go through a different phase of our cycle, that we change and we can cope with things better. So when Mimi asked me to do this, if I'd like to do this, I said to her, let me check my cycle and get back to you, which sounds bonkers, but it's true. So because I'm in the cycle that I am in, which is my pre-menstruation cycle, that means that, and I'm only just in it, which is the important bit, I am able to communicate really effectively, and I am passionate. And also the moon's in Leo today, which is brilliant because it's really good for speaking. So everybody that's speaking today will have that extra boost. And I know towards the end of this cycle, I can't go on social media because I will argue on social media, because I get this rage and this annoyance at the world. And if I had not read this book and I had not been charting my cycles, which is just basically writing down how you feel, where you are and all that kind of stuff, I would not have a clue. I remember years ago when I was young, I used to think that I was going mental. There was something like really mental happening with me, and actually it wasn't. It was just my cycles. And I know that a couple of days before I'm on my moon time, that I end up crying and getting really sad and emotional, and I can't work, so I just have to have cozy time. So it really get that. And it's not just about bleeding either. If you are a woman that's stopped bleeding now, you can still get this, and you can still chart your cycles, because it's you still have these cycles even when you stop bleeding. So that's a really good book. I love that one. And then another book that I haven't got because I've lent it to my friend is called Big Magic. It's a book for creatives, but I think it's super for anyone, and it's getting you to do that leap into the thing that you love, and that's really important. So I feel like I've talked for ages. I hope this has been really informative for you, and my top tips are: go onto YouTube and watch the full film of The Secret. If you've not watched it, watch it. Watch it if you've got a partner, watch it with your partner, because it's better if you both get on board and watch it at the same time. The bit that's missing out of The Secret, because I presume that she wanted to make the books and everything, so you kept buying, which is, you know, fair enough, but the bit that's missing is the letting go. Now, to manifest something, which means that you wish it into being, you need to let it go. So when you plant a seed in a pot, and you give it water and you give it light, you don't every day pick up that pot and go, come on, why are you not growing? Why is there no growth? Oh, this is not going to happen. He's not doing it. You just trust that it's going to grow. Exactly the same. If you want something, say like you really would love a car, say like you don't have a car, you really want a car. If you are completely focused all the time, I really need a car, really want this car, oh, why have I not got a car? You are clinging onto that. You've put an anchor down, and that anchor is stuck and you can't get away from that. You're clinging onto it, and you've got to let go. And it's the same with money. It's the same with everything. money's a really tricky one, because when you're in that cycle of you don't have any money, it's really hard to get your mindset out of that. But the more you're in that mindset of I've got no money, and you keep putting it out there, then bills will come through your door, unexpected things will happen, your washing machine will break, or you know, something like that. So it's really, really difficult. I know it is, and I know it sounds like it's all right to say that, but it don't work, but it really does. So tip two is, anytime you get post through the door, any letters, brown letters, bill, anything, what I want you to do is, as soon as you see them on your doormat or you hear the postman, I want you to start singing a little song. Checks in the post, money in the post, checks in the post. And I know it sounds stupid and I know it's bonkers, but I want you to do it. And you pick up them envelopes, and if it's a brown envelope and you know it's a council tax bill, doesn't matter, be like, oh, thank you so much for the money that I've got to pay this bill. Thank you. And honestly, it changes. The stuff that you get coming through the door will be different. It really will. That's my second tip. My third tip is to have a morning routine. So my morning routine is that every day I write a full page of what I'm grateful for. And sometimes it's hard to do, but I really try and tune into what I'm grateful for in that particular moment at that particular time. And like I say, if you're feeling crappy or having an off day, it's hard. Just take it back to basics. I'm grateful that I've got running water. I'm grateful that I've got hands to do things with, you know, all that kind of thing. And then I write a full page of affirmations. Things like, I should have brought my book down, I could have read them to you, but things like every day, in every way, life is getting better and better, things like that. And then I also write 3 pages of, it's called Morning Pages, and it's from a lady that's wrote a book called The Artist's Way. And every morning when you wake up, you write 3 pages of anything that pops into your head. So at first you'll think, just thinking about my breakfast, aren't I? That's all I'm doing. I'm just going to get up and feed the dogs and think about my breakfast. I'm telling you, as soon as you start writing down every thought that's in your head for 3 pages, you'll be really surprised. At some point in the pages, this horrible bully inner critic came out and was really telling me off, and I just carried on writing, and it was like, you have all these things that are going on in the back of your mind and you don't even realise. So I love to do that because it sets me up for the whole day, gets rid of all that inner chatter out of my head, and then once you've written all that down, whatever they're called blurts, so whatever mean things have come out, so like my inner critic said, you know, you're not good enough, you change that into an affirmation, I am good enough. So you write that down as well. And then some days I do exercise, some days I don't. Some days I dance a lot, some days I don't. It just depends. But I think having a morning routine that incorporates a little bit of these things really grounds you and sets you up for the day ahead and makes life completely different. So they're my tips. So I'm not sure how long I've got, Mimi. Could you let me know in the comments, love? And oh, Mimi's saying that she loves The Artist's Way. She's on it for the 2nd time. Yeah, me too. And there's a bit in it where she says that you end up stopping. And I nearly did. I nearly stopped again. But I was like, no, I'm going to pursue it. So I will put all the books that I've recommended in the comments. I think a couple of people are asking. Because this is my studio, this is my art studio in the basement of my house. So because I'm in the studio, just put them on so I can see. My phone's behind my easel. This is like a big desk, so I can't scroll. So I'll answer all the comments after I've come off the live. That was probably easier. Oh, Mimi says I've got another 15 minutes. Oh, you've got me for 15 more minutes. Now, what else can I tell you about? Well, let's have a little think. Let me check my list. house. Let me tell you about houses. So this is a great story. Hang on, I'm going to have a bit of water. This is manifesting in motion. This is what happened, okay? So we lived in this little house at Peel Avenue, which is in Leighton, and it was this little tiny house, and they came and did damp proofing, and the damp proofing made all the walls mouldy. It was really, really bad. So, but we'd been there for a long time. I had a cute little garden with frogs in and chickens and stuff like that. I've always been a bit odd like that. So, and we loved it, but it was damp and it was freezing. It was so cold, and there was nowhere for me to do my art or making. So I educated the kids at the time, and our dining table was what I made on, what we had dinner on, what the kids did the schooling on. Tom had his office in our bedroom. Tom works online. He's now a photographer, but at the time he was doing internet marketing and building websites. And it was tiny. It was really, really tiny. In the living room, one of us would always have to sit on the floor if everybody was in the house at the same time. And we kept saying for years, really want to move house, really want to move house. Remember I was saying about how we're clinging on and clinging on. Really want to move house. Oh, it's so bad here. It's so cold. When we worked on the computer, we had to wear gloves and hats and scarves and stuff. Even in bed, it was that cold. And we all the time, really want to move house, blah, blah, blah. We went to look at houses. We went to view houses. And they all fell through. Everything that happened fell through. And then, one particular day, I said to Tom, I've had enough. I've just had enough of looking. I was obsessed. I was on Rightmove all the time looking for houses and stuff. And it just didn't seem possible either in our heads, because we had chickens and dogs, and it's like, what landlord's going to accept them? You know, it's weird. Anyway, so I said to Tom this particular night, that's it, I've had enough. I'm not looking for any more houses. We're just going to stay here, make the most of it, see if we can fix the walls, and see what we can do. It was a rented house, and the landlord knew, and he was trying to get the money to fix the walls, but he wasn't very fast. So we let it go. And this is the bit I was on about, planting the seed, and instead of watching it, letting it go. So our seed was, we'd really like to move house. And then I said, no, that is it. And I stopped looking. I stopped looking for houses, and I was quite happy, and I was quite content, and I was so grateful for the house we had. And I didn't think about how cold it was, or how damp it was, or how small it was. I was like, we're really lucky and we're really grateful that we've got our own house. A lot of people don't. That's amazing. We're really lucky and grateful we've got a garden and chickens, and we can grow veg and everything. That's amazing. And then I was on Facebook scrolling away, as you do, and my friend had put, does anybody have a 2-bedroom house? And this other man had put in the comments, no, but I've got a 6-bedroom house. Well, my little ping went off. And I was like, ooh. So I jumped on and sent this guy a message, and said, oh, I'm really interested in your 6-bedroom house. So we had this conversation backwards and forwards a bit over Messenger and stuff. And he was saying it's in the middle of town, blah, blah, blah. Didn't really want to live in the middle of town, but I was like, 6 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms. We had 3 kids at home at the time. So I said to Tom, I found this thing, and he was like, oh, thought you weren't looking. I was like, I wasn't, it just appeared. So I said, I'm talking to this guy, we can go and view it, let's go and view it. So I showed Tom the message, and the weirdest thing in the world was Tom had been working every now and again for this guy painting houses, and I'd never met him. I didn't know his name, or Tom probably told me, but it wasn't important, so it didn't stick in my head. I didn't know him at all, and I showed Tom this phone, and he went, that's the guy that I paint for. I was like, no way. So I quickly messaged a guy, and I said, oh, you know my Tom, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, no, you don't want the house. It's awful. It was student accommodation, and it's terrible. No. But I'm really curious and nosy. So I was like, please let us come and see this house. So we went. The next day we was going to see this house. There's a bit I've just missed, I remembered. So I said to Tom, it's this massive house. It might be a mess, it might not be, but we know that we've only got £600 a month for rent. We can't go above that because we can't afford it. We can't. Even though I shouldn't be saying we can't afford it. I should have learned, shouldn't I? But at this stage in our life, didn't really realise that. You've got to watch what you say because spells come out. That's why it's called spelling. Anyway, so the next day we went to look at this house, and he opened the door and it was a Victorian house with Victorian tiles on the floor, and we just both went, ah. And the landlord went and sat in the front room, and then he went, oh, tell me when you've done, because he knew that we wouldn't want it. That's what he thought. Anyway, we started walking round, and it was on 3 floors, and the rooms were massive. Now, if you've been following me, or if you've not, if you pop over to my dottydelightful.com website, or my page, you will see my pictures of my studio. So it was amazing. So I went downstairs and I said, okay, we want the house, but I want a bath putting in, because there was 2 bathrooms, but they only had showers, and I love a bath. I love just getting in. So I said I want a bath putting in, and there was 2 kitchens because it was student accommodation. It was really ugly. There was these 2 kitchens. I said, please, can you do something about the kitchen? And he said, yeah, no problem, I can do that. So I said, the trouble is though, how much is it? And he went, £600 a month. I was like, yes. So he wanted no bond, he wanted no deposit, because he knows Tom. The rent was the right price. He turned up with this beautiful roll top bath. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed for anything better, which has been on my vision board for so long. Him and Tom worked so hard on ripping all the kitchen out and putting a new kitchen in. It was beautiful. I sent him my Pinterest boards, and he was amazing, such a good landlord. He followed all my Pinterest boards and did all my shelves and everything. It was like a dream. It was just beautiful. We was blessed. Every day we were so grateful. And I had my hot pink studio in my house, the first studio I've ever had to make in. And going from a little kitchen table, little dining table, into a full room, oh, it was just a dream. And Tom had an office. Oh, it was just fantastic. And that was all because of that letting go. And that's a really, really key thing. If I can't stress anything else to you enough, it is that you've got to have your dream. You've got to work towards your dream. So you can't just go, yeah, I want a camper van. Give me a camper van. And you just sit there and do nothing. That doesn't happen. It doesn't just go ping and it appears. You've got to actually do something. You've got to get into that frame of mind of, oh, imagine when I'm driving my camper van and stuff like that, but with grateful heart. And then you've got to let it go. Let it go. And the other point is about what we say, what we speak, and what we think. We've got to really be aware of, like what I said before about words that we say are spells, because it's spelling. That's really important. So if you see something that you'd really, really love, and you know that at the present moment in time that you don't have that money to buy that thing, instead of saying, I can't afford it, like I did earlier about the house and stuff, if you can't say I can't afford it, you say, I choose not to buy it right now. Because that is a completely different thing. And it takes a bit of learning, and it's almost like being a little mind monitor of what you're saying. And it's not like you've got to correct yourself all the time, but just be aware of what we say and what we speak. Because it's so important that what we're putting out there is what we will get back. And then my last little story about the next house is that after a few years of being in the beautiful house, and my studio was in a magazine called In Her Studio, I can't think where it is, but for 2 years on Instagram I tagged them all the time, in her studio, and they finally got in touch with me and said, can we put your studio in our magazine? I was like, yes. So I really loved it. So the landlord, unfortunately, he had to rewire the whole house. It kept sparking. So he said that we had to move out. Now this was in, I think, November, just gone, like November last year. we cried our eyes out because that's my chair, by the way, if you can hear that noise. We cried our eyes out. We was gutted, absolutely gutted. But for a long time we'd said, as much as we loved the house, we didn't like living in Blackpool because it was surrounded by neighbours that were awful. It was right in the town centre. It was like really, really bad. We kept saying, I wish we could pick the house up and put it somewhere nicer. Anyway, so the landlord said, I'm really sorry that you're going to have to move out because I'm going to get in trouble if I don't get the wiring done. Didn't know what to do. For one day, we was in panic mode. How are we going to find a house? We've got dogs. How are we going to do this? I need a studio, this, that and the other. Again, I went into the panic thing of on Rightmove. For 2 days, I was like that. So he messaged us on the Monday to say we needed to move out. On the Tuesday evening, my friend Kirsty said, why don't you increase your budget of what you're looking for? And I was like, and I thought, okay, I'll increase it. So I increased it by £100 a month. Don't know where that money's coming from, but I thought I'll just increase it. As soon as I increased it, Tuesday night, found this house that we're sat in now. By Friday, we'd gone to view it, and it is incredible. It is like perfect for us. It's all full of wood and old-fashioned features. It's absolutely lovely. But on the listing pictures, it only showed that there was 3 bedrooms, and we said we'll just have to share a room and have it as an office studio together. Now I'm really messy, and I paint, and I'm always mucky, like all the time. Tom's super clean and pristine with all his gadgets. So you can imagine what that had been like. But when we came to view, we didn't know that there was a basement. So we came down, I was like, this can be my studio. And it's in Lancaster, which is a gorgeous city, and there's trees everywhere. We've got a tree in our garden, and there's birds singing, and there's a community park at the top of the street. Oh, it's just perfect. I still didn't know how we was going to afford to pay. It was actually £50 extra. I didn't know how I was going to afford to pay it, or where the money had come from, or anything like that, but I wasn't bothered. I let it go. I just knew it'd be all right. And then when we signed the lease and everything, and I was ringing up to tell the utilities that we was changing house, the water rate was £50 cheaper than the last house. So everything just, honestly, everything just works out perfectly as it should all the time. You've just got to trust and believe. You really have. So that's my final thing, because I have waffled on a long time. I hope it's all right with Mimi. I'm just going to tell people about a little bit about what I do, and then I will get off. So I make things like postcards, positivity postcards. I make art like this with quotes on. I'm at art college at the moment doing a degree at uni, so this is a painting for my uni project. I'm in the final bit of that. I showed you that before. I make paintings. I also do birth and moon charts, so these are personal to you. I haven't got one to show you because I do them as people ask me to, but if you pop over you'll see them on my website, and they're lovely, and I find out where the moon was and where the planets were, and you get a full printout of where it was at that time and the characteristics that you are because of that. I make them. They're really, really lovely. What else do I do? Oh, I've started to do subscription boxes. I've got a Patreon page, and if you don't know what Patreon is, basically it's a page like in the old days. If there was an artist and there was a rich person, they would pay them to be an artist, and the rich person would be like, oh yes, I support this person, and the art person would be like, yeah, I can just paint all day. So that's basically what Patreon's like, but in a different thing. Oh, there's a little fly. So I've just started doing subscription boxes. So Patreon's got different tiers. You'll see if you pop on. It's www.patreon.com/Dotty_delightful. and it's got different tiers, so you can sign up for just $1 and you get access to my private Facebook group where I just share stuff. And then for $10 you get a monthly magazine, and it's a seasonal magazine, and I'm a little bit of an earth witch, or maybe a lot of one, and you get a seasonal magazine with all this lovely stuff in it. That's on that. And then if you sign up to my subscription boxes, I've just got loads of incredible things from India and all over, and they'll be going in the boxes, as well as artwork and other stuff that I make, so that's really exciting. The first one's a moon box, brilliant. And I also do a Patreon level for small businesses. Thanks, Mimi's just put the link in, that's wonderful, thanks Mimi. It's for small businesses, and I'm only limiting it to 10 people in the group because I want to help them individually on an individual basis. There's 3 already in there, so there's only 7 places left, and that's £20 and 3p I think it is, because it converts it from dollars a month. And you're in my business group, and I talk to you one-to-one, and I help you learn how to do Canva, to make your social media posts and all that kind of stuff. Basically, if you've got a tiny little gem of an idea, let's jump on a call and talk about your idea and see how I can help you with it. And we do that for free before you have to sign up, because you might hear it and go, actually no, I want to do this. So that's totally fine. And I also do graphic design for small businesses. Lastly, I sometimes work for Camarados making a newspaper called the Camarados Chronicle, and if you want a free copy you just pop over to www.camarados.com. So that's it. Oh, do you know what? I've loved this so much. I really have. Thank you, Mimi and Rico, for doing this. It's just wonderful and incredible. I love you both so much, and I learn so much off you. And I know how hard it is organising things, because I've been there, and this is a whole new thing, organising things online. So if I had a hat I'd take it off, but I don't have one, so you have to pretend. But hats off to you, and you are just wonderful. So thank you so much for having me today. I've really loved it. I hope it was enjoyable and that it was interesting for you. So I'm going to go now and have some fruit toast, and that's what I fancy for some dinner. So brilliant. I am going to see all the other things that are on. Don't forget, this is on all day tomorrow and all day today. There's so many wonderful people, so many talkers, so many yoga teachers and everything, all different. And I'll leave you in, oh, it's not squeaky now. I was going to say I'll leave you in my squeaky chair, but now it's not making a noise. Take care. Goodbye.